How you going, people? Doing my little video, so I'm going to get a crazy cop story out here. I talked about this one lieutenant we had at one of the agencies I was at. We'll call him Stramboni or Stromboni. This guy was a tool. I mean, the history on this guy is unbelievable. People are like, how do cops, getting into the cop field is kind of tricky. You have to kind of know somebody, you have to have the right background, you have to say the right things. You kind of got to be blessed into the club to get in law enforcement. Then once you're in, depending on how good of a team player you are and who your buddy's with is how well you'll move up. But rarely does, and I've said this before, moving up is rarely associated with being good at your job or being a good cop. Most of your good cops stay on the road. They're considered road dogs, maybe in detectives, but they don't usually move up the ranks because the good cops aren't into playing the politically correct game. They're out there to deal with bad guys, solve crimes, etc. So this guy moved up, which tells you what kind of cop he is. He was fired from one agency. He knew the chief, got hired on our agency, and I mean, should have been fired probably 10 times, and moved up to lieutenant, and now I think he's retired. So, and just some of the things that, this is the one incident I'm going to tell you about, it just really irritated me. And I know there's going to be people, oh, cops are crooked, you should have turned them in. Well, whatever. We tried to turn him in, but it was covered up. So this guy, some of the cases that this guy was gun in, and if you look at one of my other crazy cop stories about where I did this arson that another cop messed up, that was him. So, because he would always get, the chief would always take care of him and give him any overtime case so he could make money. He always made more money than anybody else in the agency because the chief would always throw extra money at him, so he was making twice as much money as everybody else because he'd get all the overtime. Because he was buddies with the chief. He would drink with him, they would party together, they would, cheat on their wives together, whatever. So, the things, let me see some of the things this guy did. This guy would show up to the range, and I was a range guy. He would show up to the range with the wrong bullets. He had a .40 caliber. He'd show up with it loaded with 9 mil. Okay, don't ask me how. He did have an excuse. His wife, who also got fired from another agency, was hired by our agency because she was friends with the chief, because he was friends with the chief. I don't think she got promoted to lieutenant. But anyway, she had a 9 mil, and he had a .40. And I guess when they took their guns home, somehow they would get their magazines mixed up. And he would end up with a 9 mil Glock, because Glock magazines are interchangeable. He'd end up with 9 mil bullets in his .40. She'd end up with a 40 bullets in her 9. Well, if you put a 40 in a 9 and you rack it around, it won't chamber because a 40's bigger. But if you put a 9 in a 40, it will actually chamber and it will actually fire. It just won't have enough recoil to kick it out. So he's out the range one day, and I'm like firing, he's drawing, and I hear, whoop! I hear a little baby pop, and I'm like, dude, that didn't sound like a 40. I go, don't shoot again. Because of the thing that's called a squib load, sometimes you get a half load of power. If you shoot a light bullet, the bullet will not exit the gun, it will stay in the barrel, and if you fire another gun, your barrel can blow up. So when I heard that light hit, I go, dude, don't shoot again. So I got his gun, pull out the magazine, I go, dude, you got 9 mil bullets, what the fuck? I must have got my wife's, and I'll fix it, I'll be right. And I'm like, oh my God. And this guy was such a kisser. He kissed everybody's ass, and that's why the administration loved him. But so that was one of the, just one of the many incidents. What was another crazy one? I pulled him one time. He was he called for cover on a call because he was dealing with somebody, and they were arguing at the door, and I showed up. And he used to wear a shoulder holster, which is not smart. It's not a good way. If you're in the office, you got a suit on, it's covered up, you can have a shoulder holster, nobody can do it. You don't want to be out contacting bad guys with a shoulder holster on the street because your gun is facing right here when you're talking to the guy, so all the guy has to do to grab it is reach up and grab it. So it's very easy to take a gun from a person with a shoulder holster. So I didn't like it, but the chief said he could wear it, so I didn't have any say, so he got to wear it. So he's out there with this guy, and the guy's got a big old knife on his belt, and he's arguing like, I'm not going to jail, blah, blah, and he's up there, yeah, you are. He goes, come on over here, and I go up there, and I see the guy, so I kind of scan, and I know who I'm with, so I'm like, shit, he's got that shoulder holster, he's talking to the guy, his gun's right here. As I look at his gun, there's no freaking magazine in it. So he's running around trying to arrest a dude with an unloaded gun. I was like, dude, you gotta go. I said, go to the car. He goes, why? I got it. I go, no, dude, you need to go to the car right now and check your weapon. He goes, I got it. It's right here. I'm like, dude. I didn't want to say it in front of the guy and make him look like a dummy, but he wouldn't leave. So I was like, dude, you ain't got no damn magazine in your gun. Go to the car and load your gun. So he runs off. So I end up dealing with a guy take his knife, and I got him in cuffs by the time he gets back. But whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to say I was a hero. And the guy, if you wanted to fight, he had a great opportunity. He had a guy with one loaded gun, and I let him, so it was one-on-one. But luckily, the guy was like, you know, he was just kind of arguing with him because he knew he was stupid probably, and he didn't give me that hard time. He was like, all right, you know, I took his knife and I said, turn around, man, you're going to jail. I don't fight it. So he gave up, and I put him in cuffs. Big deal. So that was one of the many incidents with this knucklehead. So the major incidents with this guy were, I totally think something should have been done. And of course, the chief covered it up. But so this other girl that was a cop in our agency, who I worked with, actually, she used to work computer crimes, and when she left there, I took her spot in the computer crimes with child kiddie porn and anything dealing with the computer forensics. She moved. She wanted to get out of there because that job's just really, it messes with your head looking at the way kids are abused. So she left and she came back. Well, when she came back, she took the position that this guy had just moved. They moved him into the position, they put her in his position. So being a computer forensic, you people, when you get on computers, I mean, it's just natural when you're a computer person. You get on there, you check history, cookies, you kind of go through, you kind of see what kind of computer you got to make sure there's nothing on there, first of all, that you don't want on there. And second of all, just the nosiness of cops, you kind of figure out, let me scan through here and see what's going on this computer. Well, she does this. And she finds that this knucklehead has been coming into the office in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning looking at porn, child porn, bestiality, all kind of bullshit on this computer, on a government computer in the office, and he's coming in our computer. You had to log in. It was under his name, so you can tell if you're a computer guy who was logged in and who accessed under that. So she finds all this shit on his computer. I wish she'd have called me, but she didn't. She called the chief and said, hey, this guy, and I don't remember if he was a lieutenant or at that point, if he'd already been promoted or whatever, but so she she calls the chief and says, hey, look at this shit. So the chief comes down and he's like, oh. So he goes, all right, we'll handle this in the morning. So the next day, now I'm getting a second hand because she told me this after this happened. So, you know, proving this would be slim to none, and proof is a relative thing, and once you're in the system, you know that the higher ups in the administration, they always love to throw out the term false allegations, or it's not true, or these are untrue statements, or these are unverified statements, or these are false allegations that cannot be proven. Okay, a false allegation does not mean a person lied or said something that was untrue. It merely means it could not be proven to the standard. It's like saying a guy who's guilty, but his confession statement was thrown out because of illegality and the jury found him not guilty. Doesn't mean he didn't do the crime. The media and everybody would like you to think that if a person's found not guilty, that means he didn't do it. That's not true. Just vice versa, if a guy is found guilty, doesn't mean 100% he did it. I mean, the likelihood that he did it, but there's been cases where people were found guilty and later cleared by DNA that they didn't do it. So, in legal terms, when somebody says, oh, this person made false allegations, right now somebody could go, oh, this is a false allegation on this guy. It's not false. I got it from the party who actually saw it. She told me about it. I believed her. She has no reason to lie. She was upset about it, and there really wasn't nothing we could do about it. She came to me afterwards. I'd have made copies and done stuff. She went to me at first, but she didn't. She went to the chief. She followed the chain of command. She went to his boss and told the chief, knowing that he would probably try to handle it, but she knew she wasn't going to back down. Well, next morning she comes in, the chief comes in and goes, hey, you know, after we talked, I thought about what you said, so, you know, I took that computer and I talked to Stramboni, And and he said it wasn't him, and he never did it, and maybe it was from the last guy. So what we did is we cleared the computer, and we cleaned the computer to make sure there's no evidence, and now we're going to monitor it and see if it comes up again. And she was like, what the... She was so pissed. She calls me, she goes, oh man, let's go have some coffee. So we go meet, I go, what's up? She goes, you're not going to believe this shit. I was like, that dirty, low-down piece of shit covering... And you know, things like this go on all the time that people just aren't going to talk about. I mean, if I wasn't doing these videos, nobody would ever know this. I've never told this story, I don't think, to anybody. You know, I mean, you just don't... These are things that most cops and people that work around the attorneys and the criminal justice system that have been in the system don't go around and talk about this stuff because it kind of makes them look bad because they were part of it. And they don't want to do that. I mean, cops are kind of proud guys' ego. They like to think, oh, the badge, we're for the people. No, we're clean. We're all good. No, there's no dirty. Don't say, we're all great and perfect. That ain't true. And everybody knows it ain't true. But there's no reason to go out and talk and smear because by me saying this, it kind of reflects negative. I mean, I don't think it reflects negative on me. I don't give a shit. If somebody wants to think that way, that's up to them. The truth is the truth. I mean, just because I change the truth, hide it, or manipulate it, and that's how I would feel better, that's not me. So, this happened. I know it happened. She was upset. There wasn't nothing we could do about it. I mean, had we the only person that we could have went to would have been the DA, and the DA hired the chief and was buddies with the chief and liked the chief and supported the chief, and the last thing he wanted is two of his lower rankings coming in making allegations against the chief. So it would have been squashed, and we would have both looked like, well, you're making it up, and where's your proof? And it had been like, well, you know, you don't know anything, Rick. You're just going by what she told you. And we don't even know if she did it, because the chief said when he looked at it, what she told him didn't match up, and that's why he wiped the computer. There wasn't no destruction of evidence. There wasn't any concealing of crimes. There wasn't any protecting of this guy. You guys got it wrong. So you got the chief, you got the guy who's an acting lieutenant, going to say he didn't do it. You got the chief saying, I know he wouldn't do it. He's my lieutenant. And you got the DA saying, this is my chief, and I believe them over you two underlings. So what would have happened if we went in there? And I know I'm going to get the cop conspiracy people to be like, that's why cops are dirty. You guys cover for each... A lot of stuff that goes on is not necessarily cops covering. It's cops making a decision that, is this the case? I'm going to jump on my sword in my career, be labeled as a whistleblower, be chastised, be investigated, have all my tapes pulled, have all my cases pulled, be smeared in the public and discredited in order to cover up what the guys in power want to cover up. Most cops are going to choose not to do that most of the time, unless it's something very serious. I don't think a cop would cover up a child molestation. I don't think they would cover up a murder. I don't think they would cover up somebody going to jail. Well, I say that, but shit, in that case where I ended up blowing the whistle, I kind of think that's exactly what they were doing. I've never experienced or heard of cops covering up to get somebody in jail that they didn't think should be there, until I was with the DA when he was hiding that evidence. And it wasn't really, you know, in that case, the guy was, I think he was guilty and he would have went to prison anyway, but the fact was it was a technicality and I was involved in it and my lieutenant was involved in it and we didn't want to be involved in it. We want to do the right thing, and we said, you know what, this is a death penalty case, we're not going to do it. So we stood up and they came after we saw it happen. But at some point you got to figure out when you're going to jump on a sword. We were both close to retirement age, knew they couldn't take our retirement, and went, you know what, this is probably something that we need to take a stand on and say we're not going to look the other way on this. And we were hoping they would just do the right thing. That would have solved it. But instead, they dug their heels in. They couldn't admit that they were doing the wrong thing. Therefore, they had to keep with their story and discredit us. So they came after us. And there's another crazy cop story I'll tell you where I turned in. Because I did 2 letters on 2 cops. I made a complaint on a judge, a written complaint on a judge, and I did 2 letters against 2 crooked cops. One was the DA for trying to hide that evidence. And another one was in the academy where this guy was rubbing on women's tits and doing all this shit, and I thought it was bullshit. So I turned him in, and I'll tell that story in another crazy cop story. But, you know, that's one of those stories to where, hey, Guy got away with something. He was allowed to continue to work. He was promoted lieutenant. Nobody ever knew the difference. If you ask anybody today, it would be his word against mine or the girl. I mean, nobody's going to investigate. Nobody cares. And you know, that's the problem, is nobody's held accountable long term. If you can get past a certain amount of time and cover up something for just a certain amount of time, then you're going to be scot-free. So anyway, that's my crazy cop story on Stramboni. All right, we'll end that there.